Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Charlie with 4BZ Truth. Just want to say hi, and I'm working on a Saturday again, back to my old shift where I work 12-hour shifts, and honestly, it's going to be better when I have some 3 and 4 days off a week, but for the time being, I'm going to be working some overtime, 58 hours a week. But anyways, I wanted to just kind of pour out my heart a little bit this morning. So, in my opinion, some of the best videos I've seen are the ones that are people that just put their hearts out there and wear their heart on their sleeve, so to speak. And so if you came to my channel looking for a good quality entertainment video, well, I'm not necessarily trying to put out entertainment. Sometimes I'm just trying to put out thoughts that might resonate with somebody. And the same goes for one of the channels I've been listening to. I was kind of inspired to make this video by a channel that by the name of Conscious Truth Seeker. I was thinking a little bit I was thinking this morning about what he was saying about living in a beta state, and then also just emitting light, or being the people that pursue truth, and when we're those who are willing to see truth for what it is, it kind of puts us in a state of utopia, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't always feel good to know the truth, but the truth resonates with us, those who are willing to see the truth for what it is. So, anyways, I thought that it was necessary for me to kind of explain a little bit of my background. But my background, I like to use analogies or things that kind of describe a metaphoric type description of, like a template of reality. Because my biggest thing lately is trying to understand the patterns of this world. And it's important to be able to relate to people on a level that they can understand, and sometimes having a metaphor or a parable type of explanation helps people see the bigger picture. Now, for me, I feel like people have foundations and they're building a structure on top of it, and it's just like the way that Jesus stated it in Matthew chapter 7. Now, if anybody has grown up in a Christian church, they may have learned that song, "A wise man built his house upon the rock, house upon the rock, house upon the rock," or whatever. And the rain came tumbling down. The rain came down and the floods came up. Anyways, but it talks about the building your foundation on a rock, or building your foundation on the sand. Now, if anybody is not a Christian, please hear me out. This is there's a lot of wisdom in the Bible, even if it doesn't fully resonate with you, or you don't believe that Jesus is what the mainstream religion says today. I honestly feel like the churches of today don't convey exactly what the Bible's explaining. That's why I really feel it necessary to explain what the Bible actually is, and what this quote-unquote Christianity is. Now, or even the identity that I am stemming from. So, going back to my early childhood, I was going to church when I was I don't know, 5 years old. My mom didn't really go to church. She just thought that it would be a good idea for us to be involved in a Wednesday night Awanas group or whatever. Awanas was like basically a curriculum that teaches kids how to memorize Bible verses and just being I don't know, just challenging each other to study the Bible or whatever. Now that was pretty fun because they had like these little themes of like sparks, like the little kids that were just getting into it, like on the kindergarten level, were considered sparks, and then they had, it's almost like Boy Scouts or something, where or Cub Scouts, you kind of go up the chain of or the levels of just who, like, well, anyways, this is kind of beside the point. I just want to kind of show you how things in our reality kind of mold us. Now I learned the Bible verse John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. I learned that when I was 5 years old. I think that's like the only verse I learned. And it's interesting because that verse is really the theme verse that most of the Christians that I know kind of stem from. And now there's a basis for any belief system. You have to understand where authority actually comes from. Now when you're actually believing something, it goes back to an authoritative person or authoritative doctrine or whatever in your eyes. But what I've come across on my channel is that there's so many people out there that are they're coming from different perspectives, and it's almost like they have a similar perspective to me, but they may be looking through a different lens of interpretation. And man, I'm going to try to really describe the molding process of how somebody comes to, where they're at. So going back to my situation, I grew up in church. I ended up being raised into kind of a dysfunctional family. And when I say dysfunctional, I'm talking like we ended up in foster homes. There's abuse. There was verbal abuse. There was just jumping back and forth from family to family because my parents were divorced. So I struggled to really believe that people loved me, or even cared for that matter. But the one person that did pull through for me was my mom, who was one of the most dysfunctional people I knew. Now, when I say she was dysfunctional, she liked to drink a lot, and she was she took pills and stuff. In fact, ultimately, that was kind of the reason she lost her life, was because she started taking pills or Vicodin with wine, and her weak heart, that she already had a heart attack. She was only operating at 30% of her heart capacity. So the bottom line is she kind of had certain addiction issues, but with that said, she always instilled love in me, and it kind of developed my thinking to be more open-minded to the people that are considered the lower echelon of society, you might say. Like, I cling to the people that are the most real and the most rejected. So when I say rejected, I'm saying, like, that people think they're weird and they don't seem like status quo or something. I hate status quo. I actually got to the point where I really feel like any kind of authoritative perspective that comes from status quo, I actually look at it like it's kind of BS, and it's all just like a popularity contest. And I don't care about the popular perspective. I just care about truth. Now, the other thing that I came to realize is that truth can be subjective if you're looking at it through a different filter of interpretation. So say, for instance, I was raised as a Christian that was born into dysfunction, and I still cling to the thought that love has the ability to reach somebody even in dysfunction. I believe it's possible to transform the world even from dysfunction. Now, a lot of people might think if you're dysfunctional or if you're walking in sin or something like that, you can't reach people, you can't minister to people. And I'm really starting to think that Jesus actually clinged to the people that were dysfunctional, because he actually, I feel like I'm a lot like him in the sense that I cling to the ones that are the most real. Jesus clung to the ones that are the most real. They're the ones that are the most dysfunctional. But there was a plan in place that God, so when I say God, Jesus referred to God as the Father. Now, I'm not necessarily saying it on the level of like what the Mormons might say, like God the Father, like Elohim or whatever. I'm talking about God, the Creator, the essence of, the Spirit of God or whatever, the power of God, whatever controls everything, is God. And whatever God allows is basically God's influence on everything. Allows or disallows. So I think God is more spirit than a person. But Jesus actually was God. And this kind of gets into a topic that makes me uncomfortable. Even though I love to research it, I don't care if research causes me to shake my fundamental foundation. Because I feel like if anybody is on a foundation, like going back to what I was saying about building your house on a rock, it will not crumble under scrutiny. So if you believe that you are on a firm foundation, then go ahead and test it once in a while, because it's necessary for you to understand what else is out there that may coincide with what you believe, or you can help set people straight when you understand. You can't reach somebody very well without understanding their perspective. So if you come across like you don't give a crap about what people think and you are the final authority, I think that I need to finish my thought on this thing about authority, because I know I'm kind of all over the map a little bit, but authority, if you look at like scientific authority, the guys who wear the white lab coats, or the ones that say, oh, I've been peer reviewed, so I have all the answers. And so obviously they are selective in who their peers are, I think, because there's a scientific consensus. And you could say that consensus is the filter of interpretation that determines the outcome of their their evidence, or how they define the evidence. So I hear a lot of people scrutinizing, like, let's say, for instance, somebody that believes that the earth is flat, they're automatically shunned or shamed to believe that the earth would be flat. And it's like, it's not a matter of what kind of basis for their belief system, or even their quote unquote proof. But there's something ingrained into society that has rejected anybody that does not conform to status quo. And I personally believe that if your foundation is not on a firm foundation, and you're seeking truth, you're going to end up transforming your perspective. Now, there's people out there that would look at me and say, why would you not have a firm foundation? You're just a heretic or something. And I really think that it's important to just really scrutinize your own perspective, because even if you're a Christian, because like I really feel like there's a lot of layers of understanding that people don't fully get, even as a Christian. And I feel like a lot of these layers are actually support other perspectives as well. And a lot of Christians nowadays would say, oh my gosh, I'm not going to venture into these realms of heresy because I've been taught that that these are lies or false or whatever the hell. And like when I was talking about Conscious Truth Seeker, the guy that I was listening to, he was saying something about meditation. And meditation is something that I always was taught to frown on. And anyways, but for now, I'm like, I'm not sure about the meditation thing, so I'm like, I'm more open-minded to it now, because, and when I say open-minded, I'm like, I'm not going to reject it just because it doesn't conform to my belief, or it doesn't jive with my belief. And turn this light off. But I feel like it's really important to venture outside of your beliefs. And honestly, I feel like there's a lot of mysteries in this reality that if and when we discover them, it actually fulfills us. It actually it becomes more. It helps us become more real. It helps us become the mature person that we become. And so if your foundation is firm, you start building a structure that becomes just so amazing. And that's kind of where I'm wondering about this whole beta state thing, because I don't really understand it. And it's, I think about this lady that I was talking to that was telling me about the age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius, and how we're basically rolling into the new age. And I can see a shift of consciousness around me. But the problem that I'm also seeing is that there's people that are so dead asleep that they don't see the shift, and they have no hope. And in a lot of ways, I feel like the hope that I have is that what Jesus said was true, and that is that we're coming into a new world, new heaven and new earth. And sometimes the interpretation of the scripture isn't always true. I feel like maybe the new heaven and new earth is really just the new consciousness or the new interpretation of things. And when Jesus actually returns, is actually his truth comes alive in us. I don't know if that's true, but it's interesting. It's an interesting thought. But anyways, I should probably cut this video short. I got to get in to go to work, but it's always a awesome pleasure to be able to talk to you guys. And if there's anybody that is interested in dialoguing with me, I'll do my best to just leave a comment, and I'll get back to you when opportunity arises. I'm a busy guy, but I work 58 hours a week, and my little baby hasn't been spending a lot of time with me, so I'll try to. And my wife, of course, we've kind of been needing to spend time the last couple weeks. So, anyways, I will talk to you soon, and be blessed, you guys, and I'll talk to you here pretty soon. All right, bye.